Probably could have helped you.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is it's a real pleasure to see everybody on this long weekend. Just having finished, I hope you all had a nice weekend and reflected on all the meaning of MLK's legacy and what it means for us and our climate work. So I think today we're going to get started with the Climate Changemakers meeting. So this meeting is a chapter meeting hosted by the Climate Reality Project State Coalition. So because of that, we're going to go around the horn and introduce all of the co-chairs of the state coalition before we get started with the meeting. Hopefully that'll let everyone get into the meeting. So here's our chapters, and I will start. The chapter that I represent is the New York City Metro chapter. I'm based here in the East Village in New York City, and we have about 1,600 members in the chapter. And I'm going to drop in the chat once I'm done with the this presentation part. Two things. One is the fact that we now have Climate Action Now as an action carousel on our website. So I'll throw that in the chat, and you'll have a chance to look at that and use that. So it's not only on your phone; it's also on the computer. And the other thing is, I'll put in the chat is our events, upcoming events. So those two things will be in the chat later. So with that, I'm going to move to the Westchester chapter and would like to invite Susie Ross to have a few words.
Oh, hi everybody. So nice to be here. I'm actually here with my co-chair, Peter McCart. But I will just say one thing about we don't have any events coming up as of yet, but we have been working on a year-long project that is a green initiatives repository for the full county of Westchester, so that anybody who wants to learn one of 70 programs has a database now to connect people. And we are so excited about that, and hopefully it'll be out next month, and we'll give a heads up because you can learn from it too.
Thank you, Susie. So, and with that, I'm going to now pass it on to John Brady at the from the Hudson Valley.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jonathan Brady from Hudson Valley Catskills. Tom Polton, my co-chair, is also on, and excited to be here and to be in community with all of you. We're really excited. I actually don't have a link to drop in either, but I can tell you that this year at the chapter level, we're really focusing on local implementation and pull through. So getting using some of the capacity that we have at the local level to just do some of the basics, like get solar into the ground and get the word out about local recycling and land use initiatives. So hyperlocal is kind of what we're doing this year at Hudson Valley Catskills.
Super. Thank you, Jonathan. Maura, can I ask you to go
Sure.
next?
So I'm Maura. I'm in Albany, and some of our leadership team is here, Laura and Paul Fisk, and some of our stalwarts are also here, Marta and Mary and Nancy, and so that's great. And we actually have our regular chapter meeting tomorrow. That's Wednesday, and we are actually hosting as speakers people from ITECA, which is the U Albany. Interdisciplinary program on adaptation and resilience in climate. And it's a very cool program. So they're going to be there speaking tomorrow. I will drop the Zoom link in for people who are interested.
Super. Thank you, Maura.
My pleasure.
And Len, I'm going to ask you to represent the Finger Lakes tonight.
Hi, I'm a new co-chair with our stalwart, heartfelt anchor, Tom Hirasuna, who couldn't be here tonight because he has band practice and he is very good. I've heard his concerts. He would love to be here with us all. I'll try to take good notes and let you know. Um, as you know, he's very active with lots of things, but he's also very good at keeping our group bonded and communicating with other chapters. We do have a special event coming up that I'd like to get on your radar, and that's we have a special speaker on February 19th. That's Dr. Genevieve Gunther, and she's the author of The Language of Climate Politics. So please remember, save the date and see us then.
Super. Thank you, Len. And Lynn sent me a message that she's not here today. Lynn Saxon of the Western New York chapter. If there's a co-chair from actually from that chapter, Tug Hill, the East End of Long Island or Syracuse. Could you speak up? Because I haven't been watching the people coming in since we started. Um, okay. Okay, great. We also have campus chapters at Vassar and NYU. So, so great. So that is the chapter news. And then with that, what would be great is if all of us could just introduce ourselves by, oh, Lynn Saxon is joining. If we could introduce ourselves by just putting, you don't need to put your name in the chat because your name comes up, but what town you're from and what your climate interest is. What like is your passion? You can, everyone has lots of passions, but what's your real passion for climate? And this will be nice because then Madeline, when she goes through her thinking, she can, kind of reflect on some of the input that everyone gives. So that would be great if everyone can just introduce themselves in the chat. And I see some people have already done that. But maybe if you could add your renewable your sorry your climate passion, that would be great. Okay, I see dog to rate. Someone's got a dog to rate. That's good, Rolando. I like that. Madeline's dog has a dog trait. um, let's see here. Peter McCart, Victoria. Victoria, by the way, is the first person in the United States to get balcony solar. Um, you can all quiz her on that. Melissa Everett, I see here, is very important in the
Typing
Hudson
away.
Valley. Hello there.
I'm
And
writing a missive.
super. Um, okay, Jonathan, renewable energy. There we go. Red Hook. We got Madeline, transmission. Okay, we're assuming electricity transmission there, not something else. Lynn is a big wind fan. She will tell you that there are more windmills than people in her county, or is that cows? I can't remember which. Um, Someone else from Ithaca, my alma
Cows, Paul.
cows. Sorry, Lynn.
But we have lots of wind turbines.
So we got a lot of renewable energy here. Food waste composting, super. Environmental justice, great. Phasing out fossil fuels and electrification. Hamburg, New York, 2 feet of snow. God bless you. Beacon, New York, Eve Morgenstern. Hi. Climate impacts on electrification and housing and fair housing. Great. Geothermal. Dennis is like drilling down. Okay, great. I'm trying to catch up with all of these. It's quite hard, but there's a lot here. It looks like finding your niche, Paul. That's right, finding your niche in communications. But there's a lot of renewable energy folks here. There's a lot of electrification folks, food composting, energy conservation, critical education. I see science, advocacy. Anshul Gupta is doing his best to kill the fossil fuel industry and doing a damn good job of it. So anyway, I think that's a great cross section of the climate movement right there. And so with that, I'm going to just pass. I'm going to introduce now Madeline, who is the head of the Climate Changemakers, and she was one of the co-founders of Climate Changemakers, which is an organization that she built to scale climate advocacy. I've been to some climate change makers meetings online and in person. And what I love about climate change makers is that it plays a role that we don't play right now. So we have a lot of action through letter writing and phone writing, like through these, through the Climate Action Now app or through other kinds of, automated letter writing tools and phone banking and so on. And then we also have very intensive advocacy work where we go in and lobby intensively for certain things or testify. And what Climate Change Makers does is they meet in person for an hour or an hour and a half if they add a half hour of socialization at the beginning. And they have this play this role that's kind of in between all of that, where they compose very targeted well, you'll see you're going about to see what they're going to do because we're about to go through a half hour of action. But they play a role which I think is very complementary to what we do. And I think it's great because there's a lot of members in our chapter who are very excited to go and meet and to do this work in person with them. And it fills a niche that they need, which is to be, in person. It also fills an advocacy niche in our total, like gambit of our toolkit. So I think Climate Changemakers is a great organization. We're really super happy to have them with us. And the reason why we invited Madeline to come tonight was to tell us more about Climate Changemakers and see how we can get more involved. So with that, I'm going to just pass it on to Madeline, who has a dog that has a doctorate from MIT. Madeline, over to you.
Thank you, Paul. I feel like that's the only like icebreaker fun fact about me you need to know. Um, Amazing. Well, I'm happy to be with you all here tonight. My name is Madeline. I live in the Boston area because my fiance is going to business school at MIT. Hence, he brings our dog to campus, and we joke that she has gotten her degree at MIT. I actually used to live in New York City until we moved up here, and I'm excited to hopefully be returning back soon. So I can't wait to be an active member of y'all's coalition as a New York City resident once again, hopefully. So let's see. I want to start by just kind of grounding us in a quick agenda, what you can expect from the next 45 minutes of time together. I'm going to give a brief overview of Changemakers, like 10 minutes maybe. We'll do a mini hour of action. So we'll actually like take action and do the thing together in real time for about 20-25 minutes. And then we'll wrap up with a little brainstorm and kind of creative group session about how we might bring this to each of our chapters across the coalition. And time will fly, and then it'll be 8 o'clock and it'll be time to go. Sweet. So let's jump in. I'm going to kind of talk a little bit here about what is Changemakers and what is an hour of action. And I'll share my screen. Excellent. So first and foremost, Climate Changemakers is powered by the Climate Reality Project. We used to be an independent organization, and then a longtime partner of both orgs recognized what obvious complements there are to Paul's point, right? Climate reality chapters know how to go deep and track down legislation and ensure that it gets passed and build networks across the state and engage our communities in supporting our work, right? Y'all's chapters have that down. And hours of action are this tool that we can use to make engagement with our chapters even easier. So a shared partner saw this kind of opportunity for collaboration about a year ago, and we announced our integration formally last September. So now Climate Changemakers is powered by the Climate Reality Project, and everything we have going on is kind of one network, one big happy family. And I'm really excited to share this with you. Okay, so Changemakers kind of specializes, our bread and butter, if you will, is these hours of action. So I want to show you what that looks like. Importantly, an hour of action is not a chapter meeting. It's not a webinar. It's not a training. It's 60-minute action events where we do the work. So by the end of an hour of action, you will have done something productive to push for policy change, whether that's writing to your lawmaker or drafting a letter to the editor or planning a constituent meeting. In 60 minutes, you will be given all the tools you need, and you will have finished the hour by having done productive climate action. We have virtual hours of action and in-person hours of action. The virtual hours of action are every Monday evening. My teammate Allison and I host them. So you're officially invited. And then all across the country in 15 cities, I think, and counting, there are in-person hours of action shown here, hosted by lovely volunteers. This is Billy in Kansas City and Haley in the DC metro area, Danny over in Brooklyn. And these folks are basically doing the exact same thing that Allison and I do on the virtual hours of action, just in person at a brewery, coffee shop, etc. And we found that especially in the kind of post-COVID era, and particularly with kind of folks of all ages, the in-person offering is really exciting and invigorating, and is kind of what people are looking for as we search for community and purpose during these crazy times. So I want you to keep in the back of your head this idea that maybe one of the outcomes here is maybe you could host an hour of action with and for your chapter in your community. This group of people here could be all your favorite chapter folks gathering in person in like a brewery or a coffee shop or a library in your area. We've already trained several climate reality leaders and chapter chairs across the country who will be starting their first hours of action in the months ahead. So we'd love to see some New York ones on the map as well. Now, the kind of forever question is, so what do you actually do at the hours of action? What do you focus on? You say climate policy action. Well, let me show you. So we always have a featured action pack up here and available on the website. And right now, the action pack is about high voltage highways, or this idea of building transmission lines along existing highways. And we'll get into the policy of that in just a minute, because this is what our mini hour of action together tonight will be about. But the kind of point I'm trying to make here is we always have identified a timely, productive, strategic climate policy solution. And these days we're focused only on state and local policy because we think that that's where we can make the most progress across the country. And we always pick issues where constituent advocates like us have a real shot at making an impact, whether that's because the policy in question has a lot of traction, or whether because it's very appealing and no-brainer and could work really all across the country. So the idea is we are focusing on state and local work, but we're focusing on state and local work, but all across the country. So a group is pushing for this in New York, and a group is pushing for this in, Minnesota and in Wisconsin and in Arizona all at the same time. So another key portion of the action pack, right? It's not just, okay, what is an important climate policy priority? We also have an issue briefing, and we'll look at this in just a minute, that's really meant to bring everyone up to speed. What is the issue? What is the solution? What are we going to do about it? And then a set of action playbooks to follow. So it's a step-by-step guide on, okay, great, how do I contact my state legislators about leading on transmission? How do I get my governor to get the Department of Transportation to act on this? How do I contact my utility company? And each of these has, and I'll just click into this one briefly, each of the playbooks is really step-by-step. It tells you exactly how to look up who represents you, tells you a template for what to say when you're reaching out, all that jazz. So these action packs are meant to be very plug and play. The idea is you can show up to an attendee could show up to an hour of action with almost no prep, and they could just roll up and you could say, hey, today go to climatechangemakers.org/ this. We give you a QR code in these instances, or go to climatechangemakers.org and smash the big orange button. We're going to work on transmission. You'll start by reading this, and then when you're ready, you'll dive into the playbook. So the idea is it's all very plug and play. The guesswork is taken out, and there is still time and space to personalize for maximum impact, right? It's a step beyond a petition. And just to give you a sense of what other types of action packs we've had in the past, or I'll stop screen sharing. We've had action packs on making it easier to build solar, so changing the state laws so that it's easier to build solar. Passing state level policies to make it easier to cut food waste, because we know food waste is a huge climate solution from all that methane that ends up coming out of the landfills when we throw away our food. I know from Paul that this group worked a lot on the Inflation Reduction Act implementation, trying to help everybody, whether that's a church or a nonprofit or just a nearby homeowner that you're friends with, getting kind of our communities to take advantage of these tax incentives before they expire. So we did a whole action pack on that. And future ones that we're thinking about for this year ahead kind of focus on the permitting and siting barriers around clean energy, including, I think I heard mention of balcony solar. We're actively checking out whether it would work to do a plug-in or balcony solar nationwide push this year, as well as thinking about data centers this year and something called Make Polluters Pay. This is a kind of a nationwide push to hold polluters accountable for all their harms on the climate crisis and create what's called a climate superfund bill. I believe New York already passed this, and so for all the questions about implementation. But anyway, I digress. The point is we have a filter, and I think, Susie, I saw a question come through chat about how do you pick what to focus on? Well, first of all, these action packs are just meant to lift up and make more accessible the work that the Climate Reality kind of staff campaigns team is organizing anyway. There's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes, and Changemakers is here to make it much easier for all of us in the network to plug into. And we pick what to lift up on these campaigns based on what policy issues are kind of hot and happening and timely across the country. That's why data centers and siting and permitting for clean energy are on here, because those are just so urgent right now with affordability and everything. And then we also focus on where constituent advocacy can make a big impact. So is this something that lawmakers are curious what their constituents think about, or is this something where they're much more likely to kind of trust industry experts? There are nuances that come out as we're vetting different topics, and a lot of our selection process actually depends on, do we have expert partners on the inside who are really pushing the legislation on the inside so that we can come on the outside and have a coordinated message and a coordinated strategy. Okay, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds. Are there any, I'm going to check the chat. I see 18 chats. Wow. Are there any kind of high level questions for me right off the bat before we dive in for our mini hour of action? If so, please put them in chat and I'll do like 5-ish minutes right now of rapid fire Q&A. Okay, I'm seeing Lisa's chat about this could be good for the 250th anniversary celebration of the United States for volunteerism. Yes. And I think I talked a little bit to Susie's question about how do you determine what subjects to work on. Rebecca, organizing in the Hudson Valley, love. Battery storage. Yes, Susie, I would love to work on battery storage. It's a question of what has traction all across the country. That's part of it too, because what we want these hours of action and these featured action packs to be is something that no matter where you are, you can plug in and this will be a good use of your time. And so it could well be that battery storage is, well, I'm not going to get too far ahead of my, too far over my skis. I am also very into battery storage. It is also a very important climate solution. And I think a lot of the siting and permitting work for clean energy in particular should always be written through the lens of, does this help battery storage as well? Because that's an important part of the clean energy puzzle. So that's where I see that nesting in. I see a question about how is Climate Changemakers different than the CAN app, the Climate Action Now app. CAN is awesome for volume, right? Getting a bunch of form letters out there. The empirical evidence shows that form letters are less impactful with policymakers. So if we can take a little bit longer than a few clicks and turn it into a whole hour of action, we'll be able to write something personalized that resonates better with lawmakers and has a greater impact on their policy decision making. So this is like the next step after CAN. It's like you jammed out a few CAN letters, you're feeling empowered. How do you take it to the next level? You do an hour of action where you send the personalized version, and maybe you write a letter to the editor at your hour of action, and maybe you schedule a constituent meeting at your hour of action. Awesome. I'm seeing a question about transmission lines along highways. How do we know that's no brainer? We're going to talk through that in just the next portion here when we get into our mini hour of action. Do we do the packaging reduction bill for New York State? I believe so what's beautiful about hours of action, right, is the in-person hours of action can, after they've been trained, can host their own an hour of action on a topic of their choosing after they go through this second training on state and local policy advocacy. And I believe one of our chapters has actually done a little bit of work, our action teams has done a little bit of work on that bill, but that's because it's New York specific. You know, we wouldn't put together a whole featured action pack on it, but would definitely kind of be here as supporters and advisors to any chapter that wanted to take on a specific bill like that. Okay, I see a couple more questions. We're going to blast through them. Examples on experts on the inside. So Marta, this campaign that we're going to work through, this action pack that we're going to work through together today at our mini hour of action, this was developed in partnership with a group called Next Gen Highways. They are a coalition of industry groups and advocates, and they engage lobbyists to push for bills that would cite transmission lines along highways. So they're inside game because they are both policy experts. They support on things like drafting bill text and hiring a lobbyist to champion this within the State House. And then we are the outside game because we're the constituent voices who are kind of paired with that industry perspective. Bum, bum, bum. Anshul, your point here is awesome. So Anshul's saying it usually takes long, sustained campaigns to get anything done policy-wise at the state level. Heck yes. Do you revisit the same issue in a repeat action about it in locations where an issue is getting traction, but the policy goal hasn't been achieved yet? Yes. This campaign is actually the perfect example of this. The Changemakers Network pushed to get these bills introduced last session, and we actually got positive responses from lawmakers saying, hey, that is a great idea. Let's build our transmission lines along highways. Yes. And so now we're revisiting it because we saw lots of traction in Virginia, New York, Georgia, and several other states. And now we're revisiting it, and there actually so happens to be a bill introduced this time. So now, it's hard to sometimes say, right, like I did this and then X happened in the legislature. It's never that clean. But I think it's fair to say we saw traction. We're now at a more advanced phase of the policy advocacy process with a real bill introduced. So we're coming back to it this time around to see if we can actually get this thing across the line this session. I will also say, Anshul, to this point, we focus at Hours of Action on the action pack of the moment for like, I don't know, 6 or 8 weeks-ish, a couple of months. And then it's time to move on to something else because there's going to be another timely issue occupying the climate policy conversation. But in all the states where we did see traction on this topic, especially on the chapter level, we will still continue to support chapter chairs in plugging in with coalition work, in meeting the moment if there are any legislative milestones, like if a bill gets out of committee or there's a big hearing or Hochul made a public statement and it scrambled everything. Like we will continue to monitor with our partner Next Gen Highways, and then we'll be able to help you as an individual advocate or as a chapter continue to stay involved. I keep flashing up the screen share, but I don't know if this is better or worse. Okay, I'm going to do one last question. Climate resiliency is also about advocating for the protection of marine life. Oh, that's not a question. Yes. Love it, Lisa. All right. So that's my little Q&A. I feel like I did a lot of talking. Thank you for these great questions, and thank you for putting them in chat. It makes it easier to get to more. Yay. All right. Let me take a deep breath, a little sip of water, and then we're going to go into the mini action portion. So do a little stretch, get yourself ready to do something. All right. All right, roll up your sleeves. Let's dive in. So in the next 20 or so minutes, we're going to do an abridged version of an hour of action. And if you don't finish the action, that's okay. It's great to get started, and you can always finish on your own or come to Monday night's hour of action on Zoom and do it with a bunch of friendly faces. So what we're working on here, as discussed, is pushing our state leaders to build transmission lines along highways. Let's dive into a little bit of the problem and solution, and I'm going to try to add a little color commentary because I did some digging about what's happening in New York. So bear with me. So our clear ask here, as discussed, states should make it easier to bring cheap, clean energy to the U.S. power grid, by building new transmission lines along existing highways. And I hear that this group has a strong grounding in clean energy, so I'm gonna proceed as such. And if you're like, I'm hearing a lot of words for the first time, the issue briefing is here for you to read at your own pace. It breaks down everything, so don't stress. This is here for you as a resource. Basically, the issue here is we are not expanding the US power grid fast enough. Our grid is physically too small and too clogged to support all of the clean energy that we need for our energy transition, as well as it's just too small to serve the existing energy needs that we have now. I actually learned that the New York ISO, this is the independent system operator or the entity that controls the grid in New York State, has done an analysis and found that the New York grid is under serious stress and could see reliability issues like power outages starting as soon as this year, particularly in the downstate region. So I'll put a link to that study. That's a utility dive article that I'll put a link in chat to right now in case you want to know more. And dun dun dun. And of course, also this lack of transmission capacity, the fact that our grid is too small, means that we're also not able to bring enough clean energy online. So I'm going to put another link in chat to a study that kind of directly shows that that's the case in New York State as well. Excellent. And of course, a solution here is to build transmission lines along highways. There are many other solutions that we also need to make transmission a reality. But the idea here is co-location, as it's called. The idea of co-locating a transmission line along a highway solves a number of the biggest barriers that we're currently experiencing to building new transmission. First of all, if we build transmission line along highways, it lets us build where transmission is needed the most. I'll show you an awesome figure to that effect in just a moment. It lets us build faster because a lot of times one of the reasons we can't build enough transmission quickly is because a transmission line will cross multiple states with hundreds of landowners. Some of those are government agencies with complicated environmental reviews. Some of them are private landowners who just don't want a transmission line in the backyard that they saved up for 45 years to be able to afford. Super valid. Some of them are farmers who don't want transmission lines cutting across their beautiful rolling pastures. This is all super valid and can complicate and slow down the transmission development process. So if we can build where highways already are, we bypass all of that. No government red tape and permits, or fewer government red tape and permits, fewer private landowners you need to negotiate with, etc. And then of course, it's not just like cheap and fast that we don't have to build on greenfield developments, as it's called, like these private landowners. It also alleviates impacts on communities, right? Like we don't want to develop new land if we don't have to, just from like an environmental and stewardship and community-based perspective. So it's a win-win-win on a bunch of reasons. And there are some really powerful examples coming out of Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Colorado, 3 states that show us not only is this possible from a political and legislative perspective, like other states are doing it, but Wisconsin's actually been doing this for decades, and they've been able to build something like 26 transmission projects since then along highway right-of-ways. So it works, it's really impressive, and basically what we're trying to do all across the country is replicate Wisconsin's playbook. Now, let's see. Going back up here, I want to show you what we've done is put together a little build tracker to show exactly what's happening in your state so that our advocacy can be as effective as possible. And if you scroll down to New York, LMN, perfect. There is legislation that's been introduced on this topic. It's called Senate Bill 8144, and it includes this kind of stock priority language that came out of the Wisconsin example bill that says it is now the policy of the state of New York to prioritize transmission lines being built along highways. And that's basically all we need to make this climate solution a reality. So how are we in the next 20 minutes going to push to make this happen? If you go back to the action plan, we're going to spend the next 20 minutes following the steps here of contact your state legislators. And I'm hoping that you can either start or hit send on an email to your state reps by the end of today's call. So if you go into the playbook, we'll see the steps, the step-by-step instructions. I should note, if you haven't been on the Climate Changemakers website yet, you'll be prompted to make an account, but it's fast and free. And once you do, you'll have one for life. So into the playbook, you'll see step-by-step guide, how to find their contact information, a template, a few important notes. Please BCC advocacy@climatechangemakers.org. That comes through my inbox, and it lets me see how many people are reaching out, are we saying the right thing to lawmakers, etc. And then the best part is if you get a response, you can forward it to advocacy@climatechangemakers.org, and I can help you, I can coach you in figuring out how to respond to the response that you get from your lawmaker. Okay, so what are you supposed to say? How are you supposed to phrase this, like, please support, blah, blah, blah. So here's a template that you can copy paste into your email client. And everything here in brackets is meant to personalize. I should also say, please personalize more if you're up for it. For example, I know that in New York, the Clean Path transmission line was recently denied or canceled. In a moment where the New York ISO is saying that New Yorkers are going to have reliability issues this year, it is completely unacceptable to be canceling transmission lines. And if we can get this policy passed, it will be much easier and much faster to build new transmission lines in lieu of CleanPath. I don't know if there's an option to revive CleanPath or not, but that is an example where the standard language is saying something like, thank you for my service as an elected representative. This is what I'm pushing for. You know, I'm seeing rising electricity bills, and this is a unique opportunity. You can delete that and say, this would make it a lot easier to build a new clean path transmission line or something similar so that we don't face reliability issues in our state. You can customize it and personalize it even beyond where the brackets are. But then, based on what's happening in your state, you'll pick one of these three asks. And we looked and saw that there was active legislation. So everyone here will be focused on this ask, and you can delete the rest. So this template really guides you through the whole process of crafting a personalized email. And then for any super speedy overachievers, you can leave a quick voicemail. And of course, don't forget to report back, follow up, and even, I don't think we'll have time for this, but it's really good best practice in advocacy to tell your friends that you took action and invite them to join you. So there's some sample language here and sample strategies in the playbook as well. Okay, and there are also some gorgeous red squiggle lines that I don't know where they came from and I don't know how to make them go away, but they're not part of the action pack. With that, that's our hour of action tonight. We're going to spend the next, let's say 12, 15 minutes, because I want to leave 5 minutes at the end. Time flies, y'all. We're going to do for the next 15 minutes. I'm going to put the link in chat here to take action, and I invite you to go ahead and dive in. You can read the issue briefing if you want to learn more. And if you're ready to take action, click into action playbook number 1, follow the steps here, and challenge yourself to draft or maybe even send that email to your state legislators tonight. I'll be here answering questions in chat, and we will reconvene with about 5 minutes left to wrap up.
Hey, Madeline, maybe I shouldn't talk. I should just, I don't want to interrupt other people. I'm just wondering, where is the New York State bill that was, that you had that reference for the, where can we find that? Issue briefing.
Oh, it's the link's up in the chat. I don't know what bill you're looking at.
I was looking at 8144, which was what was in the action plan.
That's where your link took you? It took me to this. I just put the same one in the chat.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Take a look at that one.
Oh, it's 811. That's different number. Yeah, so Madeline, in the action, it's 8144 instead of
Yep.
8114.
Let me update that.
Okay.
We learned
And
about
don't
that
you have great
today.
music?
Don't we have great music? That is my co-pilot Allison. I'm a
Oh,
total
okay.
flop when it comes to music. Even in the car, I'm like, I don't want the aux cord. So I can sing, but no, I'm just kidding.
That was okay. Cool.
What is the number for the Senate bill that's the active legislation in New York? Is that 8144?
811. I think it's
Oh,
8114.
8114.
S8, yeah, 8114.
And what's it called?
It's, what does he call it? It's not called anything right now. It's just a short relates to the siting of new electric transmission lines.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Is
You
there
can
a
make it
house?
up though.
Is there a house
You can give it a
version?
name.
There's no House version.
There's no house version. Okay.
Not
So
yet.
I asked my House member to sponsor it. That was my ask.
Oh, good thinking.
You don't ask, you don't get, Paul.
That's right.
Wait, are you talking state or you're talking congressional?
This is all state,
I suppose
New
it's
York
assembly
State.
in that case.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, assembly. My bad.
No, I understand. I just was like, I'm not understanding something.
Oh, representative with the small R.
Mhm.
Indeed.
So we have a 1 minute cutoff, right?
Think in the
I like that I
abstract.
learned about this bill.
Yeah. I'll give folks a minute to finish their sentences or their thoughts, put a pin in it so you can come back to it. And then I'll take us home. All right, let's bring it back together. Um, Excellent. So hopefully you've gotten into the resources, you've opened up an email to your elected official, and you're either currently editing or almost done editing a little email saying, hey, can you sign on to this bill and or introduce it in the House? It's very exciting. So I hope you also feel like first of all, round of applause. That's awesome. That was like a micro, even more micro of an hour of action than I thought we were going to have. So apologies and thank yous. But I hope also what it shows is that when you carve out the time, whether it's 15 minutes or ideally 60 minutes, you can actually accomplish a lot. You can learn in depth about what you're advocating for and why it's a good idea. And you can also take the time to send a real personalized email that grounds what you're pushing for in the context of your state or your area. I'm going to put two links in chat. We talked at the beginning about what might it look like to bring an hour of action either on transmission or on any of the other topics I was previewing to your chapter. And I'm putting two links in chat here. One of them isn't hyperlinking. Oh, that's annoying. Here, got it. Tech wizard. Okay, so the first is to get trained by me and Allison, my teammate, on how to host an in-person hour of action with your chapter. We're hosting a training on February 22nd. We would love to see as many chapter chairs there as possible or chapter members who want to champion the hour of action within your chapter as one of the many offerings that you have. This is an awesome opportunity if you've been looking for a way to get more involved and want to step up, or if you're a chapter chair thinking, I know somebody in my chapter who's not here tonight would be a great fit. As many of you potential hour of action hosts as possible, please sign up for this training on February 22nd. And then if you're like, this is great, but I want somebody else to do the work for me, Bring your chapter to Monday hours of action. Allison and I will facilitate. We can even make a breakout room for your chapter if that's of interest, or you can just come en masse and we'll give a special shout out to the New York Hudson Valley chapter, for example. So those are two awesome options. And I would also, I guess, put the ball in your court. You can put an idea in chat. Do you have any other ideas for how to bring this to your chapter? I'm going to answer Kathy and Marta's questions in chat. And since we're coming up on the end of time,
Excuse me, could you remind me what the number of the legislation is?
Yes, I'm going to put the link in chat right now. It's S8114. Nina. Awesome. Well, awesome. So since we're about at time, I'm going to pass it back to Paul. And I'm also just going to do a quick plug for a link Rolando shared. There's a Climate Reality Network wide state policy call happening in 2 minutes. So Rolando put the link in chat just above, and that's going to be a great place to hear from other chapters across the country what they're up to. Excellent. Back to
Yeah, thank you, Madeline. That's
no.
great. Thank you so much. And my experience, because this felt a little stressful, like trying to get it done and everything in like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. My experience was that at the in-person event or the virtual event, you have enough time that you can get this done. And then especially at in-person event, you get to help each other out and you get things done. And then the second time you go, it's even easier and you get like three things done instead of two. And then so I think with might have felt a little like overwhelming. Don't think that it always is that way. It doesn't. It actually gets a lot easier. And I got answers back. So from some of the things I sent, so it's great. It really does work. I just wanted to highlight that. And we'll have plenty of times if you have questions, because we really do have a hard stop at 8 because of this upcoming meeting, the state policy meeting. So I'm gonna, close us off on time. And if you have questions, can you please just email them to me at pdkrussia@hotmail.com. And I'm going to apologize and ask, because I forgot to ask Laura to make her announcements. I'm going to ask Laura to make her announcements now, if it's okay, Laura. You have exactly 30 seconds to make your announcements. Apologies.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I am Laura Falk. I'm the co-chair of the New York State Chapters Coalition with Jonathan Brady. Just wanted to highlight a couple of upcoming events. One is an advocacy chat hosted by the advocacy working group of the coalition, which is chaired by Susie Ross. I put registration for that in the chat. And of course, we have our 7th annual New York State retreat coming up in Geneva, New York in July. I hope to see everybody there. If you haven't been to a retreat, they're amazing. It's a great opportunity to have fun, meet people, do some planning for the coalition. And I put a link to more information about the retreat in the chat as well. It's on July 16th through 19th, but you don't have to stay the whole time. You can check out what the agenda is and do what works with your schedule and see what interests you.
Thank you, Laura. And I want to give a big round of applause to Madeline. Thank you so much for taking us through this. It was very tight timelines for getting done what you had to get done. So really appreciate it. And thanks so much for being a part of Climate Reality now.
I'm so happy to be here. I put the links in chat to follow up, and my email, which I'll also put in chat, is madeline.dyke@climatereality.com. So you can always hit me up there.
Super. Okay, well, thanks everyone. Love you guys lots, and hope to see many of you in a few minutes or at our next meeting. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks so much. Thanks,
Thanks for
everybody.
everything. That was great.
That's great. Bye.
Bye.